Joining me live now is the Deputy Nationals leader, Perin Davey. Thanks for your time, Senator Davey. The Greens, again, calling for a ceasefire, chanting in the Parliament. They were shut down by the Senate President. What do you make of their approach at the moment?
Oh, look, again, it's another stunt. I mean, it's just so that Senator Steele-John can get his Facebook post up with his chants, his stunt. They knew it was not going to go anywhere. And it's unfortunate that they're taking up important Senate time for this cheap stunt.
There's the image of them all holding up the ceasefire now call. Do you accept, though, that they're representing many of their constituents, many of those that would have voted for the Greens?
Well, they are representing many of their constituents, but also, I mean, the Greens are the party who says that we've got to show compassion, and what they are failing to do is to show any compassion for the 200-odd hostages that are still being held by Hamas, for the 1,400 people who were slaughtered on October 7th through terrorist actions of Hamas, and they're refusing to show any compassion for that. So, I mean, the loss of innocent civilian lives is terrible, regardless of whether they're Israelis or Palestinians. We don't want to see the loss of innocent civilian lives, but, you know, we also need to acknowledge what started all of this, and all of this was started through the terrorist actions of Hamas.
That is true. Let's turn to news closer to home. The nationwide outage has hit millions of Optus customers. What's been your reaction to the company's response? Has it been sufficient?
Oh, well, I'd like to see a bit more. I'd particularly like to see more of an acknowledgement from Optus about the impact it had on small businesses and on government services. I mean, we saw small business owners putting up signs, running honesty boxes because they couldn't take electronic payments. They couldn't take credit card payments. I heard of one business in Wagga Wagga that found their old-fashioned click credit card machine that they were using. But there's no acknowledgement from Optus the cost to the economy of what this outage is.
The government launching an investigation into the blackout, do you welcome that?
I absolutely welcome that. And also to look at what we can do to help ensure that there's a backup plan if this sort of thing happens again.
There's a short, sharp Senate inquiry that's been announced. What do you hope comes out of that?
Well, I hope
no doubt you'll call the CEO of Optus.
I hope they call the CEO, and I hope they're able to investigate, even if it's an in-camera hearing, because I understand commercial sensitivities, but to understand what happened. Why did this outage occur? What caused it, and how we can prevent it happening again.
You've supported, on the industrial relations front, the passage of a couple of non-controversial elements of the IR bill, supporting first responders, sex discrimination victims, or domestic violence victims, I should say, DV victims, and also some asbestos reforms. It's hard to see the government allowing a delay on some of those key measures, but they want to keep the bill as a whole, because they think if they allow some of it to go through, they won't get the rest of their reforms through.
This just shows you the tactics of this government. The four measures that the crossbench senators presented to the Senate today, word for word government policy, word for word the sections of legislation that the government has before the Senate. And so they effectively voted against their own legislation. And they only did so because by passing that legislation without the rest of the so-called closing the loopholes bill, they lose their negotiating power. And that shows you what the government's about. It's about politics and not actually outcomes. We are concerned that the four measures that we supported the crossbenchers to get through the Senate today, they're measures that should be done with a priority.
Do you think the government will relent on it?
Well, I mean, it will be...
Tony Burke's saying he wants everything to pass next week, the whole thing.
Sometimes in life you don't get everything you want, and he should accept that these are very important measures that the government has said is so important. I mean, addressing silicosis, which is a devastating lung disorder, that's something that this government has put on the priority list, and yet they're saying they're going to vote against it because they haven't got the rest of the bill through.
Perin Davey, Deputy Leader of the Nationals, appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.